Hey, just hitting all the right buttons here. Welcome, welcome. All right. I think we're recording and streaming live all at the same time. How fun. Yes. Okay, this is my mat. You gotta share. Sharing is caring. Thanks for caring. All right, I am Janelle. If we haven't met yet, that was my dog Callie, my guest star regularly in my yoga videos. New environment. I am at my sister's house, and so we made her living room work so I can still deliver you guys some nice free yoga videos. And so this evening's class is a yin-yang style of class where we'll take a little bit of movement, keep everything nice and gentle, and then we'll slow things down for a little bit more of that yin style, that restorative style, connecting with the breath, still the mind, try to bring some peace and restoration to the body, and settle in that way. And so I will try to bring to you some of that without using any props, but I think we can do it and we'll have fun in the meantime. And so let's start in a seated position this evening. I have to laugh a little bit because a seated pose, when I was flipping through and doing my yoga teacher training, is called easy pose. But sometimes this is not easy for a lot of people sitting cross-legged or in half lotus. Like, you need some external rotation of the hips. You need to have a little bit of an open low back, all sorts of things. So if you want an actual easy pose, sit however you want. Whether you want soles of the feet to touch, maybe more in a cobbler, or if you're cross-legged, lots of people like to sit ankle over ankle, or even if you start to bring more knee over ankle, there's all sorts of ways for you to sit. But what's important about sitting is feeling into those sits bones, maybe pulling some of that flesh away. And the more you can press into those sits bones, that's where you can ground down and feel that connection through the sits bones, the low back, the spine. You can press in and start to get a little bit taller. So let's roll shoulders back and down. Slight tuck of the chin, and imagine a string going right from your low tailbone, zipping all the way up through your spine, coming up the back of your neck, and coming out through the crown of the head. And imagine someone just gently pulling on that, getting a little bit taller, extending up and through that. And then try to send the shoulder blades down. So you have the lifting up of the heart, zipping up. The ribs are coming in, core is slightly engaged, so your ribs aren't puffing out to try to find that length, but you're finding something a little bit more neutral. And then see if we can start to settle in, connecting in with the breath. So just simply take a nice deep inhale, breathe in through the nose. Notice how the body lifts. Pause, exhale, let it go. Notice how the body falls back down. So see if we can take a couple of those nice, just big breaths. Inhale, lifts through the shoulders. Exhale, let it all go side out. Connecting in. Let's take a couple more. Breathe in nice and big. And let it go. Maybe starting to roll through the shoulders, rolling them back, starting to feel that release. I think everyone that I've talked to today, I said they have a sore low back, probably from all the extra sitting and hunching that we've been doing. So I'll try to keep that in mind in our class this evening. So let's start just connecting inward, starting to focus. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, close through the eyes, and just kind of maybe imagine, scan through the body. How does the head feel? How is the neck? How are those shoulders, the ribs, the arms, the elbows? Not only thinking of the bones, but also the muscles. And where is their tension and tightness? And I like to just rest my hands on my knees as I sit and scan through. Get into that low back. How does it feel? And see if you can just activate into that low back. Bring the belly button slightly in towards the spine, almost like you're pushing the low back out slightly. See if that maybe helps release. How are those hips, the pelvis? How are your legs and knees? Do you got tight hamstrings or quads? How are the feet doing? Are they sore? Maybe giving those toes a little squeeze and let them go. And then let's connect back in with the breath. We're going to do 3-part breath this evening. If it doesn't serve you at any point, just return to either just deep breaths or whatever normal rhythm of breathing you would prefer to have. But 3-part breath works for the inhale, breaking it into 3 separate sections. So first you start to fill up through the top, so filling through the throat and the top of the lungs. And then as you breathe a little bit deeper, you feel the ribs start to expand, filling the lungs completely. And then getting into the abdomen, into that deep belly breath, filling the lungs. Breathe in as much air as you possibly can. And then on the exhale, starting from the top again, and start to let that air out through the throat, the top of the lungs, through that rib cage area, and then release through the belly. Feel that slight engagement of the core. And so we'll take a couple of these breaths where you inhale and start to fill up. Get everything nice and big. Feel the ribs go into the belly. And exhale. Start to let everything out. Soften. And then finally that slight bit of engagement. Inhale, fill. Feel the nose starting to maybe swell and expand. The throat fills. Filling the lungs slowly. And exhale. Letting it all go. Feel a softening through the shoulder blades. Maybe feel that relax through the sit bones. Let's take one more of those big breaths. Inhaling. And let it go nice and slow. Taking a couple of moments to just connect inward. Maybe you've had a really busy day or it's the end of your week. See if you can just let that go and just be perfectly present on your mat coming into this time frame. Maybe use that breath as an anchor. Maybe you set an intention for today's class. What are you hoping to get out of this time, out of this practice? Repeating that intention to really solidify it. And then start to wake up the body slowly. Maybe you just bring a gentle wiggle into your toes, maybe into fingers. Maybe you sit up nice and tall and just expand. Or you can sweep the arms up, take that nice good morning stretch. Maybe you interlace the fingers, flip the palms, reach up. Bring the hands to our center if you're reaching up. Excellent. So let's get ready for some movement. And so we've been sitting most likely on our dominant side, so your most comfortable seated position. Let's switch things to our non-dominant side. This is Callie. She'll be helping us out tonight. Thank you. You got to stay off my mat though. Good girl. All right, so bring the opposite foot either in front or on top. Then still try to feel into those sits bones. So maybe giving a little wiggle and getting into them. Let's warm up through the shoulders and the spine. So inhale, reach up nice and wide. Maybe you look up, bring the hands together and come down, hands to heart center. On the inhale, keep the hands together, start to reach the hands up. Exhale, open up the hands, draw them nice and wide. Flip the palms pointing upwards. Inhale, sweep up. Connect the hands together. Exhale, hands to heart center. So that's the motion of our breath. We're really drawing the breath with our hands. So moving at your own pace. Inhale, reach up. Maybe reach extra, get into those shoulders. Exhale, palms down, relax, release. Palms come up. Inhales. And exhale. Let's take one more full complete round of those. Reach on up. Hands come down. Inhale. And hands come back to heart center. Press into those hands. Feel the interaction. Nice, strong arms. Roll those shoulder blades down. So you're really kind of squeezing them back behind you. Slight tuck the chin. Excellent. Let's bring the arms out wide to a T. And then let's twist towards. We're going to do both directions. You can start with your favorite side, but try to keep the arms exactly as they are. Lots of times with our peripheral vision, we like to move one more than the other. So keep rolling that arm to stay neutral. And just squeezing through the middle. See if you can twist a little deeper. Take a nice big exhale. Relax. Squeeze a little more through the core. And then let's come back towards neutral and twist over towards the other side, reaching back behind you. Squeeze through the middle. Really try to squeeze all through those internal. And exhale. Release. Inhale. Reach the arms up. Reach up nice and tall. Let's come into just a nice gentle side bend. And drop the arm down. Whether you just press into fingertips or walk the fingers a little bit farther. Open up through that top shoulder. See if you can get the stretch happening there. And then sink maybe just a little bit deeper. I'm starting to feel a little bit more space happening between the ribs. Maybe you come all the way down onto forearms. If the hip starts to pop up, press it back down. Press into that bottom hand. Come all the way up. Reach up. And over towards the other side. Drop it down. And sinking into it. Open up through that top shoulder. Maybe gaze goes up to really roll top shoulder back. Start to feel that openness start there. And then notice the ribs. Maybe you want to reach the hand a little bit longer to get more of that stretch through the ribs. Maybe even through that underarm. This is a great way to start to stretch into those lymph nodes that exist there. Excellent. Let's press into that bottom hand. Come on, back up. Reach up nice and tall. Look up. Take a little bit of a back bend if you're comfortable with it. Bring hands towards heart center. Tuck the chin. Just take a nice little bow. Inhale. Reach on up. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, reach up. Look up, engage through the throat. So maybe send the chin a little bit higher, relax through the shoulders. Exhale, hands to heart. Tuck the chin. Maybe you tuck the chin a little extra, extend through the crown of the head so you get a little stretch on the neck. Excellent. Come back to neutral. Roll shoulders back and down. And then let's release through the feet. Sending the feet nice and long as we come into our staff pose. And so if that low back is really tight, probably your shoulders might be farther back than over your hips. I used to get so frustrated with this pose, because I had no postural strength. Like my back muscles were so weak, my core was so weak. And then as I started working on that, this pose became a little bit easier, and I was able to go from resting my hands back behind me to sitting up, bringing my shoulders over my hips. But then I was also frustrated because I found that yoga wasn't always body shape friendly. And so bringing your feet a little bit wider might make a little bit of space that your body needs to sit comfortably in this position. So if you've always thought your toes have to come to touch in that traditional yogi pizza slice, I encourage you to release through that. Maybe bring the feet a little bit wider, but still activate through the feet, bringing the toes up towards the ceiling. Extend through the heel, almost like you're flexing through the feet. And then relax through the toes, but try to keep those legs still nice and engaged. So although we're just sitting here, we're actually working pretty hard. We're trying to send those sits bones back behind us to keep our shoulders up nice and tall. Legs are strong and engaged here. as you flex slightly through the feet, back line of the legs engaged, side lines engaged, and top line over the knee. See if you can lift the kneecap. It's really quite subtle, but it's just this gentle little pull that happens through the quads. So these are nice, strong legs happening here. You might feel a little bit of burn through those hip flexors as we get into those. And see if you can lengthen through the crown of the head. Excellent. Let's inhale, sweep the arms up. Reach up nice and tall. Bring palm towards palm. Exhale, pull down into cactus arms. Open up through the elbows. See if you can squeeze through those shoulder blades. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, pull back down. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, down. Got 2 more. Inhale up. Exhale, down. Inhale, reach up, and then add that little bit of resistance like you're moving through honey. Pull the elbows down, open them up, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Relax, release. Ooh. Bring the knees in towards the chest, maybe grabbing onto them. And sit up nice and tall. Maybe even look back a little bit. And then bring soles of the feet to touch. Let's start to get into those hips and those inner thighs a little bit more. And coming into your variation of a cobbler pose. And so feet can be farther from the sits bones to make this more gentle, or closer towards the sits bones for more intensity. Lots of times what I see is people trying to get their feet in right close to their sits bones and their knees are super high, which ultimately is fine. I'm not going to say your yoga practice is wrong, but if you want to start to get into this a little bit deeper, just walk your feet farther away and then start to press the knees down towards the mat. See how that might change the posture for you. Excellent. Maybe grabbing on at knees or at the ankles. Let's lift the heart, reach forward, maybe even look up, straight back, and then exhale, fold forward. Maybe you rest the elbows on the knees, or you come down as far as you'd like. Hold here with a nice flat back for 1 full round of breath. So fill the lungs nice and slow. And exhale, let it go. And then you can drop the head around for the spine. Maybe you reach your hands forward. Feeling into that. Let's hold this for 3 full rounds of breath, or 3 to 5, depending on your rate of breathing. See if you can soften into this pose. Are you holding lots of tension through the hips here? Can you relax, release? Can you relax, release that low back? Starting to take it easy, feel like you're melting. Sometimes pressing into that third eye pressure point feels really good. And so whether you bend the elbows, plant them in, I like to bring my hands to prayer and have the thumbs press in into that nice little third eye area. Releasing the hands back down, and very slowly start to press into those hands, roll on up. Excellent. From here, sit nice and tall. We're going to come into deer legs. And so from here, you can just pick a side, but I'm going to bring my left knee, I'm going to bring it all the way in, maybe hugging it in towards the chest, and then tipping it over, so I'm aligning the knee with the ankle. So I'm coming down like so. So I'll just demonstrate that one more time. So we are in cobbler, knees open wide. I grab onto one knee, pull it in, and connect it into the arch of the other foot. All right, so if this is really painful on that hip, you might need to just come down to the side a little bit here. Or if you want, we can really start to press into this hip. See if you can send it down and trying to square shoulders with the hips. Find that length. And then, of course, soften. Release into this. And so from here, there's a lot of different poses that we can get into. If you're not feeling anything here, if like your hip flexors are super loosey goosey, you can actually come into like a half lotus variation here as well, which I always forget to cue, bringing the foot tucked up onto the leg. But that just adds a little bit of weight and pressure, but if that's not your jam, you can always leave it down too. All right, so let's first add in a little bit of a twist. And so whatever direction the soles of your feet are pressing or facing, that's the direction we want to twist in. So inhale, get nice and tall. Exhale, start to twist towards the soles of your feet. And adjusting the hands as you need. Maybe you want to bring that hand back behind you, press in like a second spine, get a little bit taller, twist a little bit deeper. Odds are you're feeling this tons through the hips. Can you soften, relax, release? One more full breath. Breathe in and let it go. Let's release the twist. Come back towards neutral. Quick little counter twist. So twisting in the opposite direction, opposite hand comes back. I just noticed how cute my dog is laying on the couch. That's adorbs. And come back towards neutral. Excellent. And then let's start to release from this pose and posture. And then so maybe you just plant your hands back behind you. If you just start to press into the feet, you'll notice you're just in a perfect position to windshield wipe your feet from side to side. So let's come into the other side. I may be simply just dropping that windshield wiper down towards the other side. And if you want, you can come back into cobbler and then reach for the other knee, hug it in, and then spin it around. Trying to work, if you're down here, you can still twist from down here both directions. And so adjusting as you might need to, pressing into that hip, trying to get shoulders and hips aligned. Sit nice and tall, extend from the crown of the head. And then twisting towards the outside. Maybe that hand plants back behind you, press in, get a little taller. Exhale, twist a little deeper. And can you soften? And do you notice that you're squeezing into any of the muscles? Can you start to let that go? Take one more full round of breath here. Breathe in nice and slow. Fill the lungs. And let it go. Let's start to untwist. Come back towards neutral. And then take that counter twist right away. Twisting towards the other side. Relax through the shoulders. Excellent. Let's start to untwist. Plant those hands back behind you and come back into that windshield wiper. Dropping knees from side to side. Most beautiful. All right, let's make our way into an all fours position. So stacking hands and shoulders, or I guess wrists and shoulders, and knees and hips. Pressing in nice and firm. Let's continue to warm up that spine with a little bit of cat-cow breath. So inhale, drop the tummy down, look up, and then press into the hands. See if you can extend through the shoulders, active. Excellent. Tuck the chin, round through the spine, rounding as much as you can. When you feel like you're at your max, press into the hands. See if you can activate into those shoulders a little bit more. Excellent. And you can take your own variations of this. So whether you just want this nice, still cat-cow. I've seen lots where people kind of lean forward and swing back into child's pose. Whatever you feel your spine needs to warm up, I give you permission to take whatever movement you require today. Excellent. Let's meet back in neutral. And then let's send the right foot back. Touch the toes into the mat. And let's get a little calf stretch here. So pressing that heel, almost like you're trying to connect it back with the floor. Feel that stretch through the ankle, through the calf. And then press firm into those hands. Bring this all the way into the shoulders. Beautiful. Hold here. Let that stretch really sink in. And come back towards neutral. Make sure those hips and knees are in line. Float the leg up. Toes still pointing down, pressing into each hand equally. And then bring knee towards nose, rounding through the spine, squeezing that leg in. Send it nice and long. We'll take 3 of these. So reaching out, that's 1 already done. Knee to nose, keep pressing into those hands. Squeeze that knee forward. Send it long. There's 2. Last one, knee to nose, drop the head down, press, 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 hold, and send it nice and long, toes pointing down. Excellent, let's drop that knee. You can take a little sway from side to side, one of my favorite ways to release. And also just get into those hips a little bit, maybe into some side bends. Alright, let's come back to stillness. Send the left toes back, touch them down into the mat. You get that nice little calf stretch where you start to almost try to connect that heel with the mat. Pressing firm into the hands. Nice stretch through that back line of the legs. Let's start to release nice and slow. Make sure hips and knees are in line. Let's float that left leg up, toes pointing down. Bring the knee towards nose. Squeeze it in. They don't have to come to touch, obviously. You're just trying to squeeze them together, pressing into those hands. And send the leg nice and long. Lift it nice and high. Knee towards nose. Use that exhale to squeeze everything together. Inhale to get that length. Last one, knee towards nose. Drop that head down. Reach out nice and long. Drop the knee. Take that gentle little sway from side to side. Excellent. Let's find our stillness. And then tuck the toes under, press into the hands, making our way into a downward dog. And taking some time to pedal it out. And you'll notice that that's similar to that calf stretch we were just taking. So maybe your calves already feel a little bit more open. Pressing firm into those hands, hips go up. 1 full breath here. Look towards the front of the mat. Hop, step, jump, or tiptoe into a forward fold. Take a moment here to simply dangle. Head is below the heart. This is a nice restorative position. If the legs are straight, make sure you're not hyperextending into the knees. Lift the kneecaps. Maybe bring a gentle bend to them. Drop the head. Give it a nice shake no. Maybe you nod it yes. Alright. Let's inhale. Halfway lift. Plant the hands above the knees. Press in. See if you can get a little taller, longer. Roll shoulders back and down. Extend long through the crown of the head. Feel that nice stretch on the spine. Bend the knees gently. Sink the hips. Start to look up. Reach the hands up. Just a nice, gentle chair pose. Press all the way up to standing. Reach up. Hands start center. Release the hands down. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, hands start center. One more time. Inhale, reach up. Maybe take a little back bend. Push the hips forward. Reach the hands back. Gaze goes back behind you. Hands start center. Now let's turn then face you. I see that you cannot see my head at all, so that's fun. Well, let me just adjust the camera. All right. And so let's inhale, reach the arms up, interlace the fingers. Maybe you come to steeple, and then exhale, tip over towards one side. Press firm into the feet here. And see if you can roll that top shoulder back and open a little bit more. And then if you're comfortable and you're feeling very stable here, that's when you can kick the hip out to come down a little bit more, feeling that stretch through both sides of the body so you're not crumpling into the one side. Inhale, reach up. Exhale over towards the other side. If you're feeling strong and stable here, then start first by rolling top shoulder open and then kick the hip out, reach a little farther. Inhale up, reach up, hands to heart center. Release the hands down. Step right foot back into a nice high lunge. So you're high up on those back toes and sinking into that front knee. Knee is in line with the foot. And so if your knee is really far back and your leg is quite straight, that might be a sign that you need to hop that back foot a little bit closer. If your knee is really far over the toes, you can lengthen the distance between the feet. Bring the hands onto the hips. Roll left hip back, right hip forward. Start to feel that stretch through the right hamstring. Through the right quad. Maybe you sink a little deeper. Try to bring shoulders over the hips and lift that back knee. Tons of hip work tonight. Excellent. Inhale, reach on up. Bring the hands interlaced behind the head, open up through the shoulders. Squeeze those shoulder blades together. Elbows are as far apart as they could possibly be. Keep pressing into that front foot, into the back toes. Inhale, fill the lungs. Exhale, let it go. Release the hands back up. Exhale, start to bow down. Maybe you frame the foot or just rest the arms on the knee. Hold here for 1 second. Keep rolling left hip back or right hip forward. And then drop back knee down towards the ground and coming into your low lunge. So adjusting the stance however you need to, closer together for more gentle, farther apart for more intensity. Excellent. Let's add a twist into this. And so if you're up on the knees, you're simply just starting to twist in towards the leg. Maybe you reach top arm up using that knee as an anchor, or you can plant that hand down. Dipping through the hip is quite normal here. So right hip drops down to reach up farther. See if you can square the hips back with the mat. So you're sending right hip back, left hip forward, and they're roughly equal with the ground. And this really kind of changes and adds a different level of intensity into it. If that top arm is sore, you can drop it back behind or maybe come in for a little bit of the bind. Excellent. So reach on back up and then come back into our low lunge. And start to straighten through that front leg. Maybe you walk the hands back behind. Maybe they're resting on the leg to try to stabilize, or to a handy couch right beside you or the wall. Maybe they're on the hips. And the goal here is really just a hamstring stretch through that left side of the body. So start to flex through the toes. Send a left hip back, right hip forward. And then if you want, you can add a little bit of half hero into this. So I'm really not changing anything on this extended leg here, but I'm just trying to sit back, boop, 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 either on that foot or onto the ground. So I'm now stretching lots through this foot, still flexing through the feet, rolling shoulders back and down, maybe adding a little forward fold into it. Either grabbing onto the knee or reaching for the foot. And if you're down on that back ankle, let's start to press up. Making our way back into that nice low lunge, either framing the foot or resting, elbows on the knee. Let's see if we can tuck those back toes under and using some of our strength, pressing into that back knee, lifting it up off the ground. Excellent. If the feet feel nice and stable, let's start to float the arms up off the knee, reach on up. Coming into our crescent lunge, start to reach back behind you. Maybe it's just a millimeter. Send the hips forward. Coming into crescent lunge and release. Hands to our center. And start to straighten through that front leg. Bring both toes towards the long edge of the mat. Inhale, reach up nice and tall. Exhale, start to fold forward. Coming into your wide-legged forward fold. And so if you can't quite reach down to the ground, you can always use a yoga prop or even a chair. Or you can use the body to prop, pressing in above the knees or even at the hips. Maybe working the hands down the legs as you increase in flexibility and mobility. And can you soften through the shoulders, through the neck? And can you start to engage through the inner thighs? And so zipping that inner line of the legs up, squeezing everything up and in, engaging through Mula Bandha, that nice pelvic floor, nice and strong through those lower abdominals. And then start to come up halfway, maybe floating the body up, bring the hands onto the hips. Excellent. Let's start to bend through the left knee. Just coming on to one side. And press it back. Come into the other side. One more time towards the left. And towards the right. Back to neutral. Keep at that half lift. Bring a gentle bend to the knees. Maybe you point the toes out slightly as you press on up. Back to standing. Reach up for the star. Straighten through the legs. Hands to heart center. From here, coming into a nice warrior two. Front toes point towards the top of the mat. Back toes pointed towards the long edge of the mat. Reach the arms out. Imagine that right hip opening up, spinning outwards. Sink into that front knee. Bring shoulders over the hips. Look forward. Excellent. Let's start to straighten through that front leg. Reach on up, palms come together. Exhale, sink back into warrior two. Inhale, reach up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Release the hands and step towards the top of the mat. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Release the hands down. Inhale, sweep them up. Exhale, hands to heart. Press into those hands, roll shoulders back and down. Engage through the core, that gentle tap of the pelvis. Release the hands. Inhale, sweep up. Interlace through the fingers, coming into that moon read on this side, starting with the opposite side. If you can remember what you did last time, go for the other side. Bending over, reach those arms nice and long. If you're comfortable, kick that hip out, press into the feet. Nice long side bend. Inhale up. Exhale, other side. And starting gentle, open up through that top shoulder. Maybe you kick the hip out, come a little bit deeper. Inhale up. Hands start center. Beautiful. Let's step that left foot back now. And coming into that nice high lunge on the other side. And taking a moment to adjust the stance here. Checking in with those feet. And how does the hip feel? How do the legs feel? Can you roll right hip back, left hip forward, and extend through that back knee, trying to lift it up, maybe sinking more, bringing the shoulders over the hips. If you need to have a little bow forward, that's actually a little bit more respectful for that low back if it's really tight. And trying to extend and lengthen. There's tons on those hip flexors and through the back as you try to find that length. Let's inhale, reach the arms up. Roll shoulders down. Press firm into those feet. Maybe you look up. Maybe you reach back. And taking that nice crescent lunge. Inhale up. Reach up tall and strong. And hands towards center. And then start to lower down. Maybe you just start by resting the arms on that front leg. Keep rolling right hip back, left hip forward. And then slowly drop that back knee down onto the ground. And patting it up and then adjusting the stance however you might need to. And just simply hanging out in this low lunge. Keep rolling right hip back, left hip forward, feeling it lots through those left quads. Starting to come into that twist. So now we're twisting towards the right. So whether you just keep the arms on the leg and roll right shoulder back, maybe you reach right hand up, or if you press left hand into the mat, reach up. Lots of times as we're pressing into the mat, we do that little hip dip to try to reach farther back and see if you can square those hips with the ground and with the front of the mat. Lots more intensity as you try to keep them square and level. Exhale. And start to release that twist. Bring shoulders over the knees. Send the hips forward. Let's frame through that front foot and start to extend that front leg nice and long. And coming into this nice runner stretch. And so really it's just that nice hamstring stretch. And so whether you're staying up nice and high or adjusting through and to sit on that back foot, keep flexing through the foot. Toes are equal distance away from the body. Lift into that kneecap. Find the length, sit nice and tall. Nice full breath. If you want, you can fold forward and try to keep a nice flat back. Maybe you reach for those toes. Take a nice big breath, and on the next exhale, and start to press yourself back up into that low lunge position, either framing the foot or resting the arms on the knee. Tuck those back toes under. And take a moment to set the feet. And then lift the back leg. And when you're ready, extend long through the crown of the head. Reach on up. And coming into that nice high lunge. And then open things up. Coming into warrior two. So toes point towards the front of the mat. Back toes towards the long edge of the mat. And then straighten through the front leg. Both toes point towards that long edge of the mat. Hands come onto the hips. Or maybe into those invisible jean pockets back behind you. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale to start to bow forward, protecting that low back. And coming into your variation of a wide-legged forward fold. You can release the hands down. And if you're able to touch the ground, maybe walk the hands forward, putting the weight more into the toes. Maybe then you walk the hands back, putting more weight into the heels. And then see if you can find neutral weight into the feet. Lots of times we just shift more weight into the heels and into the inner lines of the feet. Can you press into that outer line? Beautiful. Extending long through the crown of the head. Let's play around with this a little bit here. You're welcome to do whatever you want in your wide-legged forward fold. I've been liking bending through one knee and the other, walking your hands towards that side. Getting ready for a little bit of side lunge. And then let's come into our side lunge. So I'm walking my hands towards my left foot. I've got to bend through my left knee. And then I'm starting to sink down as if I were sitting onto that foot. My heel pops up off the ground, so if yours does too, that's fine. You can simply just hang out here. Maybe that right foot is still connected in with the ground. Maybe you can start to spin the toes upwards, and also getting in to that nice runner stretch that we had going on. From here, you can play around with the toe stand and the balance, or bringing a hand down and reaching up. Or you're just laughing, thinking that's ridiculous. All right. Starting to calm down. Connecting that right foot down, pressing in, and coming over towards the other side. Whatever your variation is. So whether you just hang out here and start to bend the knee, that works too. You can still come into the little side twist on this side. Or whether you start to sit onto the ankle, coming into the toe stand, lifting left toes up. Maybe you want the full little toe stand variation. Maybe you want the twist. Maybe you just think I'm crazy. That works too. Alright, let's start to come out of this, pressing left foot in. Press into right toes, come back towards center for that nice wide-legged forward fold. Drop the head down, give it a nice shake. Reach arms, maybe just resting them on the low back, interlacing them, or start to bring hands overhead, squeezing through the shoulders. One full breath here. Lower the hands back onto that low back. Bring the hands onto the hips. Bring a gentle bend to the knees. Sink the hips down slightly as we come up slowly. Lifting the head. Pressing into those feet. Come all the way up. Reach up for that star. And then transition this into our warrior two. And so right toes point towards the front of the mat. Arms go out, back toes point towards the long edge. And yes, I switch sides so that in my wide-legged forward fold you wouldn't see my tuchus. Imagine this hip opening up and sinking in. Shoulders over. And straighten through that front leg. And then step towards the front of your mat. And then inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. So I know we just held a forward fold, but this time our feet are close together. How does that feel on your hamstrings? And if you want to get more into the low back, bend through the knees, maybe even rest the body on the legs or reach down for those toes. Bending the knees as much as you need to grab onto either the big toe or tuck a couple of fingers under the foot. See if you can add some resistance into the shoulders. So starting to pull into the feet, press your toes into the hands. Maybe notice that hinge from the hips as you pull the body down. Stretching through the shoulders. One more full breath. And start to release the fingers from underneath the foot. And as we simply hang out here, let's come up halfway and plant the hands just above or below the knees. Let's bring a bend to that left knee. Either plant the elbow or the hand into the leg, sweep right arm up, feel that twist through the body. And so whether you're hanging out here or elbow on the knee, reach on up. If you've got a yoga block, maybe you're planting your hand into the yoga block, or possibly even down onto the ground if that works for your body. Open up through that top arm a little bit more. And then exhale, start to slowly sweep it down. Strength through both the knees. Bring opposite elbow or elbow onto right knee. Start to bend through that right knee, left leg stays straight. And sweep on up. Reach left hand up towards the ceiling. Lots of stretch through that left leg, through the hamstring, through the hip. Exhale, lower the hand down. And enjoy a nice little dangle here. I'm rocking into heels and toes just because my body is calling for it. Let's inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the hands and step back and lower onto the ground. Keeping the hands underneath the shoulders, elbows tucked in towards the ribs. Start to lengthen through the crown of the head, press into the pelvis. And come into just a little baby cobra. So you're pressing into the hands, maybe into the feet, definitely into that pelvis area. Roll the shoulders far away from the ears. If you want more from your back bend, start to press more into those hands. Keep the elbows by the ribs. Don't let them flare out. And if that low back is tight, or if you're overly squeezing into those glutes, try coming down a little bit. Bring the feet wider. And then press up to where it feels good. Keep rolling those shoulders away. And if you want more, you can bend through the knees. Bring big toes to touch. And coming up for that nice king cobra. Release the feet. And let's lower down nice and slow. Maybe stacking hand over hand. Making a little pillow for that forehead. Or bringing your favorite cheek down. Let's bend through the knees and a windshield wiper to release. Bring some stillness to the feet. Lower them back down. And let's come into that nice half frog variation. So I'm going to start with my right side. Just so that you could allegedly see. Let me just adjust. Lowering this back down. And so we're bringing right knee out, planting it in towards the floor. I'm trying to get that 90 degrees at the knee, but if you can't, that's fine. Just extending through that heel, maybe flexing through the foot. And can you soften into that right hip? If you want to add the back bend in, you can come into Sphinx or just stay nice and low. That helps get more into the hip. And can you take 7 to 10 full breaths here? Starting to connect in with that more meditative state of our practice, more of that yin style. I'm going to try to really slow our practice down so that it all feels stretchy and delightful. But oftentimes as we hold the poses for longer periods of time, our mind starts to wander. So can we connect in with the breath, using the breath as that anchor? And especially as we're laying on our front body here, you can really feel that big inhale breath as you start to fill the abdomen, breathing in. Maybe you can even come into that 3-part breath that we did before, filling the top of the lungs, the middle rib cage, and breathing into the belly. Feel how the body rises, and on the exhale, the body falls and sinks. On the next exhale, let's start to send that right leg along, or turning it to neutral. And just take a couple of seconds to melt into your mat, noticing the difference between left hip and right hip. If the same cheek has been down the entire time, maybe you want to switch over to the opposite cheek. And then let's slowly get ready to come into the other side, starting to bend through that left knee. And bringing it up maybe towards the elbow. They're obviously not coming to touch. Trying to aim for that 90 degrees, or at least flexing through that left foot. And then can you melt down into it? Find that length and that extension through the crown of the head, maybe through the tailbone. And can you soften at all? Do you notice any of your tendons or muscles squeezing? And can you release? Maybe using a big sigh, big exhale, and to let it go. And perhaps coming into that 3-part breath on this side, noticing the movement of breath throughout the body, letting that be your focal point. Take another full breath, filling the lungs nice and slow. Exhale, let it go just as slowly. And start to drag that foot back down towards neutral. And simply change the position of your head. And so whether you want forehead down or opposite cheek, your choice. I always like to give a little bit of time for what they call the rebound in yoga. And as we hold poses for longer periods of time, we're actually restricting blood flow and energy ever so slightly. It might be enough that when we release that we feel a little tingle sensation. And the goal of yoga is not to chase that sensation, but simply become aware of it and allow it to balance back out. Alright, starting to bring the hands back underneath the shoulders. Let's start to come back into a nice child's pose. So maybe moving through that tabletop or all fours position. And start to extend long through the arms, sitting maybe back on the heels. And if this is really hard on your knees, I get that there's a lot of bend through the knee, plus adding body weight onto that. And you can always do this on your back, hugging the knees in towards your chest. That takes the weight off the knee and still gives that nice stretch through the hips and through the low back. Maybe you want to push into the hands. Feel that little stretch through the spine, and through the body of the shoulders. Maybe you want to pull without moving the body forward, and feel how that opens up through the shoulder blades. I love the child's pose, push-pull. So I like to offer it a decent amount. Maybe you want to reach back for the heels. Keep breathing. You might feel that restriction of the breath as the legs press into the abdomen, pressing against the diaphragm and the lungs. Can you keep a nice strong inhale and a nice strong exhale? Alright, let's start to come out of this, pressing into those hands, lifting up the shoulders, and then coming into a position where we're simply sitting on the feet. And so if this becomes excruciating for you, of course, lean forward and put some weight into your hands. But starting to feel that stretch either through the top line of the feet, or if you prefer, you can tuck the toes under. I know that if people are used to wearing high heels, the toe tucked version, it becomes just torture because there's so much stretch through that arch. But if you're working on one versus the other, I try to do this a little bit each day. Just keeping the feet healthy. We have something called fascia, which is a real thing in our body that's really, we don't know much about. We do know it's literally everywhere. It's surrounding the muscles, it's intertwined through the muscles. If you've ever cut chicken or like a chicken breast, and it's that little slimy bit on top that we usually just try to scrape off or you cook off. And that's what fascia is, and so it's all throughout the body. And they've discovered that there's these fascial lines that connect through. So you got, a couple of them is your frontal fascial line, your back fascial line, your deep front line, your spiral line, and there's a number of other ones. And the fun thing about it is they mostly start to connect into the feet, specifically in that little arch or middle of the foot area. And so as we stretch into the feet, as we start to get into that and really work on our foot health, we're starting to activate those fascial lines that connect all of our muscle groups. So we're connected from the tips of our toes all the way through our body, around, maybe even behind the neck to the eyebrows or into the head. Excellent. I could talk about fascia for a long time, but I'm sure your feet would just be killing you. And so let's start to come forward. Release the feet, maybe giving them a little tap on the floor. For some reason, this really helps restore things back to normal. Brings a little bit of blood flow back in. And then let's make our way into a reclined position, laying on our backs. Roll those shoulders back and down. With a slight tuck of the chin. Maybe grabbing a sweater or a blanket. Excellent. Let's get into our shoulders a little bit more. And so I'm going to start with my left hand. I'm going to tuck it underneath my spine, kind of into that little natural arch of the back, and then rolling back down on it. And so I'm going to play around with that left shoulder a little bit. So if you want more intensity, you're starting to walk that hand up the spine, bringing it higher up the back. And trying to keep the entirety of that arm still pressing down and in. And finding that sweet spot that you could actually hold for a number of breaths. So if it's feeling painful, you've gone too far. If it's simply uncomfortable and you think you could breathe into it, maybe that's the yoga edge. That might be what you're trying to find. And of course, we can't leave this right shoulder out because the left shoulder is having so much fun. So maybe you simply want to reach left hand up overhead, Or bring a bend to that elbow, maybe making a little pillow for your head, or starting to tuck it underneath, coming down the spine. So the glamorous name for this is cow face arms, which goes with cow face legs, but we're doing the nice reclined variation of it. So we actually have the weight of that front body pressing in mostly into that left shoulder, and we're trying to keep that right arm completely connected in with the ground. All right, connect in with the breath here. Let's see if we can slow things down. If you're holding and squeezing on to that tension, can you take a big inhale, breathe in, and exhale, sigh it out, let it go. And did you soften and release at all during that exhale? If the answer is no, go ahead and take another big inhale breath. Fill the lungs and sigh it out. Connecting with that breath. Let's add a little bit more into the legs here now. Maybe you want to bend the knees, plant the feet in towards the mat, and then let the knees fall open, coming back into that nice cobbler pose. Soles of the feet come to touch, and gravity weighs down on the knees. If you need to use a pillow or a couple of blankets to prop up the knees, taking some of the weight out of that hip joint, you're welcome to adjust and do so. But we'll just be here for roughly 5 rounds of breath. So connected and breathe. At the end of that 5th breath, let's release through the knees first. I'm bringing the knees back up together and extending them long. And then release that top arm, reaching up and coming to neutral. And then rolling off that back hand, moving slowly here. We've had a good amount of weight on that shoulder for a while. So release it back down the spine and let it go. Have both palms facing up, roll shoulders back and down, and just come in for that rebound position, this little mini shavasana that we get. Letting the balance of that shoulder come back to neutral. Maybe you can feel your pulse through those left fingertips or through the arm. And then on the next exhale, let's get ready to come into the other side. So this time grabbing right hand, palm facing down, and tucking it under that small of the back, rolling back down onto it. And finding that sweet spot. Noticing that one side might be very different from the other. And so if you're expecting to slide the hand up higher on the side and maybe you can't, that's okay. They don't have to be exact. Alright, let's get into that left shoulder, reaching hand up overhead. And bring a gentle bend to that elbow and maybe make a little pillow for your head. Or start to slide the hand down the back. And can you soften? Are you squeezing through the shoulders in any way? Can you let it go? Let's connect in. Take a nice deep inhale, breathing audibly. Exhale, sigh it out. I'm trying to connect both arms with the ground or the mat. And let's start to get in the legs a little bit. Let's go for some internal rotation of the hip. So maybe you just want to bring The feet ever so slightly wider, and you start to bring the toes towards the middle of the body, maybe even toes towards touch. And this is the most gentle variation of internal rotation that we can get on the hips. If you want more, and if you want a little bit of gravity to play into it, that's when we can bend the knees, plant the feet into the mat, walk the feet out a little bit wider, and let the knees fall inward. This does add a little bit of tension on the knees, so if you've got sensitive knees, this might not be the variation for you. So extend the legs back long and let the toes fall inward. But if this feels really good, go ahead and embrace it. Walking the feet out as wide as you'd like. The knees obviously don't have to come to touch. That's definitely not an expectation set here. I believe this is officially called teepee pose. I'll make a little teepee with the knees. And then see if you can connect in with the breath. Fill the lungs as much as possible. Take a nice deep inhale. So go slow. Notice the pause at the end of the inhale. And exhale just as slowly to let it go. Take one more full round of breath. Exhale, let it go. And start to heel toe the feet back towards a neutral position. And send them nice and long. Release that top arm, reaching up, bringing it alongside the body. And then very slowly rolling off that left or that right hand, letting it journey back down. Bring both palms facing upwards for our little mini Shavasana. 3 to 5 full breaths here. And then when you're ready, wiggling into fingers and toes, and then hugging the knees in towards the chest. And just taking a moment to reset the spine. Nice and gentle. If you want, you can reach through the knees for the feet, and coming in into this nice happy baby. This is my favorite way to finish off because it resets the spine nice. And you can do so much from here, extending one leg long and the other, coming back into cobbler. And this is the freestyle portion of the class. And so if there's another pose that you're working on or that your body is craving, and I believe yoga is all about getting into the body and starting to listen to it, becoming aware of what it needs, and then not just leaving it there, but responding to it. So take a moment to respond. What does your body need right now? Maybe it's a little waterfall pose, maybe a bridge pose or a twist. If the answer is more Shavasana, that is a valid answer as well. And so you can always start to settle into that final pose. Connecting in, playing around with that little bit of movement. And Callie's even taking a nice big stretch. Look at these big paws. And roll shoulders back and down. Start to settle into your final resting pose. And of course, taking the time you need to balance things out. If you're playing around with something on one side, balance it on the other. And whatever you want your final pose to be, start to create that little bit of space. Roll shoulders back and down. Extend long through the crown of the head. Maybe even bend the knees and plant the feet so that low back is really nicely connected in with the floor or the mat. We've taken a couple of little mini shavasana, but let's see if we can settle into the breath here. Enjoying a couple more moments of stillness and peace, harnessing that for the evening to come. Can you relax the jaw? Relax the muscles in the face, the eyebrows, that little space between the eyebrows. Relax every vertebrae in the spine, and starting at the neck, and through the shoulders, through that rib cage, all the way down to the low back, and into the tailbone, the pelvis. It all simply melts. Let's go. Taking a couple more full rounds of breath, breathing nice and deep. And on the next exhale, start to wiggle into fingers and toes. Maybe you roll into wrists and ankles. Getting all those cracks and pops out. And taking any movements you'd love to take to wake up the body. Maybe it's a nice good morning stretch. Or a little windshield wiper of the legs. Just playing around with a bit of movement. Maybe you give yourself a nice big hug. And then release. Get the other arm on top. Squeeze those shoulders. And then release. And using the next full round of breath, slowly start to make your way up to a seated position. And sitting up nice and tall, if you're comfortable keeping your eyes closed. And roll shoulders back and down. And let's finish off by taking one full round of breath that breathes in deep and exhales to a sigh. And so getting ready, breathing in, filling the lungs. Exhale, let it go. I thank you so much for joining me this evening for a little bit of yoga. It's always a pleasure to share my practice with you and to be able to guide you. And if you have any feedback, comments, or questions, feel free to throw them in the comments or send me a message. It'd be great to try to connect a little bit more. I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening or rest of your day. May the rest of your night be filled with joy, and may you always be blessed. Thank you, and namaste.